back to the Experience Health Podcast, where we dive deep into the science and solutions for living your best life. I'm your host, Rachel Vassar, and today we're going to be tackling a topic that many of us can relate to: chronic fatigue. We often find ourselves exhausted despite getting what seems like enough rest, maybe even like 8 or 10 hours. So why are we always tired? Okay. Today, we'll explore the science behind chronic fatigue and discuss potential holistic solutions that can help. But first we get into that, I want to share a little bit of a story with you. A few years ago, I was constantly battling chronic pain, bloating, and an overwhelming sense of fatigue. I felt like no matter how much I rested, I never had enough energy. This affected my work, my relationships, and my overall quality of life. I had to work 18-hour days. I was in college, I was building a business, I had work as well, and I was also an athlete, and sometimes I could barely hold onto the steering wheel when I was driving. I was so fatigued. The turning point came when I just had enough. I had hit complete burnout. I could not concentrate. At this point, I had quit my job and was doing business full time, but I could barely focus on anything. It was so difficult for me to get to sleep at night, to get up in the morning, to get my homework done, to get business work done. I was on the struggle bus. However, by focusing on healing my gut, managing my stress properly, I had to take unnecessary stressors off my plate, and making proper lifestyle changes and fueling my body properly, okay, I completely transformed my health. And now today, I have limitless energy. I have healed my gut so I no longer bloat all the time, and I have no more chronic pain. Absolutely incredible, y'all. I did not know that this was possible. It took me years to get here because I had no idea what I was doing through it. I had support with a health coach and physical therapist, and mentors, but the bulk of my healing I did learn on my own, especially the things that I found that worked best for me, because I uncovered the root cause of why I felt like that in the first place. So anyways, this transformation from chronic fatigue to limitless energy has inspired me to help others achieve the same through holistic health coaching, along with overcoming weight loss resistance and getting strong and confident, because we love that. So anyways, in today's podcast, I'm going to be going over 10 scientific reasons. I'm going to be going through a review of chronic fatigue syndrome and the reasons that they have found that chronic fatigue occurs, as well as giving my holistic take. So, first reason behind chronic fatigue that they have found is sleep disorders. So conditions like sleep apnea or insomnia prevent restful sleep. So when they're talking about sleep disorders, they tend to lack the deeper, I guess you could say, influences in what is causing insomnia, or what is causing, well, more so insomnia than sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is typically some sort of a obstruction in your nose, or your nose most of the time. But anyways, my holistic take on this is that when it comes to chronic stress, okay, we're not getting into stress yet, but when it comes to chronic stress, most of the time people find that they have chronic fatigue after a period of high stress, okay? So maybe they had super busy work, maybe they had trauma growing up, maybe they had a heartbreak, maybe they just had a bunch of stuff going on, maybe they were athletes in a very stressful season, whatever. They'll typically notice chronic fatigue syndrome start to develop after a certain stressful period of time. Now, this is not all the time, okay? Everyone is different, so that's definitely something that we need to take into account, but I see this all the time. And most of the time when it comes to chronic fatigue and interruptions in your sleep, it's tied to cortisol, the cortisol pattern. Okay, now bear with me here. The cortisol pattern, it should, start pretty high in the morning, and then within an hour of waking up, it should reach a peak. Okay, and then throughout the day, it should slowly decline to be the lowest before you need to get to sleep. If you have a regulated circadian rhythm, You'll notice that you're able to wake up feeling rested within 5 to 15 minutes, and you should be able to get to sleep within 5 to 15 minutes of getting to bed. And you should also have consistent energy throughout the day, right? Obviously, it's going to start declining later in the evening. That's completely normal. But you shouldn't be having that like 3 p.m. crash. You shouldn't have to drink like 4 cups of coffee just to get through the morning, right? So when I talk about cortisol pattern, that is what I am talking about. Now, I'm going to talk about insomnia specifically. So with insomnia, this is typically people have a difficult time getting to sleep. Maybe they're not able to get to sleep. Maybe they sleep like 4 hours a night. It's different for different people, okay? But when it comes to insomnia, what is really going on here is their cortisol pattern is likely flipped, okay? So they'll wake up with their cortisol lower than it should be, okay? Maybe it does a little bit of a rise during the day, whatever. And then instead, and I'm not talking about like, oh, the cortisol is super low in the morning and super high in the evening. I'm talking about like slight changes, okay? But still, based on how the pattern is supposed to be, it's too low in the morning, and it can change depending on the individual, what it does during the week, but most of the time you'll have low energy. During the day, it might still have like a spike and then slowly decrease. But what happens is it's too low in the morning compared to where it should be, and then it's too high in the evening compared to where it should be, okay? Again, I'm not saying cortisol is higher in the evening than it is in the morning. I'm saying like this is where it should be in the morning and this is where it is, and then this is where it should be in the evening, and then like this is where it is type of thing. So hopefully that makes sense for you guys. But with that being said, this is a really common reason why people struggle with insomnia. Their cortisol is too high and melatonin is too low. Melatonin promotes sleep. Cortisol promotes the fight or flight response. It promotes energy. It promotes increased focus. So when you have higher cortisol at night, you're going to have a harder time getting to sleep. You're likely going to notice racing thoughts in the evening. Have you ever like laid in bed and like felt like you could just run a marathon? That's likely what's planned, what's going on here. So that is my take on sleep disorders and how it plays a role in chronic fatigue. There are a few other patterns that you can have with your cortisol. Another one being if you are noticing just constant fatigue, maybe not insomnia, but literally constant fatigue, then your cortisol could be chronically down-regulated, okay? Which means that it's like close to or pretty much flatlined. So you're not getting enough energy to get through your day, and then you're just tired in the evening. So you may or may not struggle with insomnia in this particular instance, but this particular instance, you'll probably notice you're chronically fatigued and you're sleeping a lot, yet not having enough energy. So those are just the few scenarios that I notice for individuals when it comes to their cortisol pattern and its connection to sleep and chronic fatigue. So the second scientific reason behind chronic fatigue is poor diet. The review said that many studies have been showing that nutrient deficiencies and processed foods can sap energy levels. Now, my holistic take on this is that 100% that is true. That is so true. So many people are walking around with incredible nutrient deficiencies, and they're pretty much only eating like processed food, which they sometimes add synthetic, or I'm not going to go there, but they sometimes add micronutrients into processed foods. However, they're typically less bioavailable all the time, typically, depending on the person, depending on the state of their gut health, okay? And it doesn't offer such a wide variety of micronutrients than whole food does. But the problem with only eating highly processed foods is, again, you're not getting enough bioavailable nutrients. You're likely not getting the right micronutrient split. Like for fat-soluble vitamins, you need to make sure that you're getting enough fats. And this can significantly increase your risk of nutrient deficiencies, which can sap your energy, right? Your cells will not be able to function optimally, right? Your cells need fuel to process. If your cells aren't able to process, it's going to think that it's in survival mode. It's going to downregulate energy. Your mitochondria are going to likely get a little bit damaged or sad, weak, whatever you want to call it, because you're not getting enough nutrients in your body. So energy is going to decrease consequently. So what you should do about this is make sure that you're eating at least 80% whole foods. Make sure that you're eating a balanced macronutrient split, getting a lot of fruits and vegetables. I wouldn't recommend more than maybe like 3 fruits a day though. Make sure that you get about like 6 to 9 servings of vegetables is ideal. I know your brain might explode with me saying that, but if anything, try to get a good amount, as much as you can, okay? And then making sure that you're staying properly hydrated can also help facilitate absorption of nutrients, the function of your cells, and obviously we are 70% water, so getting enough water is really important for energy and for cellular processes. So, yes, that is my take on how diet can affect chronic fatigue. Number 3, they mentioned that a lot of studies showed that lack of physical activity can lead to lower energy levels, which this I 100% agree with, okay? When you don't demand anything from your body is not going to give you what it needs, okay? Let's take, for example, a marathon runner. A marathon runner needs more energy than, let's say, someone who just walks 30 minutes every single day. Right? The amount of energy it takes to run a marathon is a lot more than walking 30 minutes. But because they have trained their body to do so, because your body is able to, or I don't know how to explain this actually, because your body is able to, because you train your body to produce that amount of ATP and energy, and because you train consistently, it builds stronger mitochondria, which produces energy to help sustain the level of effort that you are at. However, if you only walk for 30 minutes per day, which I'm not saying is bad, okay, or if you don't do any sort of physical activity, your body is not going to have any reason to create that much energy. Your metabolism is going to downregulate, your mitochondria is going to, for lack of better words, get weaker. So if you want to increase energy levels, incorporate regular exercise, even starting with light activities like walking or yoga. You're not going to be able to run a marathon after sitting on the couch for 6 months, okay? Do not do that. That would be horrible. So if you have been sedentary for a very long time and your body is not used to movement, I'd recommend starting with like walking or yoga or super light strength training and then building up from there. And what this will do is build stronger mitochondria, help you increase your metabolism, help produce more ATP, produce more energy, and that in turn, when you have stronger mitochondria, you'll have more energy to get through the day. You've probably heard the saying, a body in motion stays in motion. This is kind of that, like it's on the same thought process as that saying there. And if your body is used to not doing anything, it's going to be used to not doing anything, and it's not going to produce what's necessary or required for higher levels of energy expenditure, okay? Because that would just be a complete waste of energy. So that's my take on how sedentary lifestyle can be behind chronic fatigue. The fourth thing that scientific research has found or discovered can influence chronic fatigue is chronic stress. I touched on this when I was talking about sleep, but they mentioned that persistent stress leads to hormonal imbalances and fatigue, okay? So I already went through this a lot when I was talking about the sleep and the cortisol pattern, because cortisol, stress hormones, play a really big role in how hormonal imbalances can affect fatigue. Of course, there are other hormones in play, like your thyroid hormones, even androgenic hormones can influence your energy levels. But when it comes to what is like more directly impacting your energy levels, it's definitely it's definitely like cortisol that is more at play here. Okay, the body is extremely complex and interconnected, and I'm not going to go into every hormone that can be affected, but cortisol is a really big one that we are seeing that can affect and cause chronic fatigue when it is downregulated. So that is my hot take for there. So if you want to decrease chronic stress, a really important part in this is regulating your nervous system, okay, and decreasing your cortisol. To decrease your cortisol, you cannot decrease your cortisol by anything except stress management techniques, optimizing your lifestyle, nutrition, etc. Okay, if someone is trying to sell you a cortisol regulating supplement and not encouraging stress management techniques, lifestyle optimization, nutrition optimization, then please run the other way, like as fast as you can, okay? Of course, there are supplements, 100%, there are supplements that can be amazing at supporting a reduction in cortisol or in increasing cortisol. However, they should never be used alone. They should be used as support with, lifestyle and nutritional adjustments. So a few of my favorite stress management techniques that I'm just going to talk about real quick are meditation, deep breathing, and mindfulness. These in and of themselves could go so incredibly deep. But if you are noticing that you do have chronic stress and you want to work on managing your stress effectively, then I highly recommend looking into maybe doing like a 5 or 15-minute meditation or deep breathing or mindfulness practice every single day, along with working on things like maybe when you get stressed, practicing the physiological sigh by Dr. Huberman. He proposed that technique. That's a deep breathing technique. And then maybe if you notice that you are higher stress, maybe taking like 5 minutes to ground yourself. If you need to get into the present moment, you can try the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 practice. There are a lot of different things that you can go into here. So if you want personalized support in that, let me know. I can help you out because stress management is a huge thing that I support my clients with because that's so important when it comes to getting the body out of survival mode and into their healing era, like I like to say. So, not a medical term, it's my term. Healing era is what I'm talking about. Anyway, I digress. The fifth reason behind chronic fatigue are medical conditions like thyroid disorders, diabetes, and funnily enough, they mentioned chronic fatigue syndrome, which I think is very hilarious that they noticed that in the review of chronic fatigue syndrome, but okay. But with that being said, it's definitely important, okay, to make sure that you are getting your thyroid checked if you notice that you have low energy, if you notice hair falling out, if you notice cold hands or feet, or if you notice you're getting cold really easy. Those are other really common signs of thyroid issues. So I highly recommend getting your thyroid. I recommend, even if you're not showing symptoms, getting your thyroid checked at least every year. That's just me. Even if you're not showing signs of diabetes, making sure that you're getting consistent labs done for insulin and fasting blood sugar is really important to make sure that you are in a healthy state, that you're not pre-diabetic, because catching things early is really important to help prevent further exacerbation of a certain chronic disease. So you can do this by either going to the doctor, hopefully getting these things covered by insurance, or going to a holistic or functional health coach practitioner like myself who can order labs for you if you don't want to hassle with your doctors. But either or is good as long as you're getting, things checked up and understanding your numbers to make sure that everything is good there. Because I mentioned in the chronic stress point above that thyroid can also influence energy levels. So making sure that your thyroid is good is really important, because if you develop like Hashimoto's, or even like hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism, Graves' disease, whatever, this can cause significant impact in your health and your well-being and overall quality of life. So making sure that either your numbers are good or if they're starting to get off, but it's not like an actual diagnosable disease yet, or autoimmune disease, doing what you can to help prevent that is really important. So please keep that in mind, right? Number 6, the 6th scientific reason behind chronic fatigue is mental health issues. Now, first off, what they say is depression and anxiety can cause chronic fatigue. Now, I think that these have a, what is the word? I don't know what the word is exactly, but these have I'm just going to use the word synergistic relationship. I don't think that's the right word, but that's the only one that I can think of currently. But pretty much like depression and anxiety can cause chronic fatigue, but I do also personally believe that whatever is causing chronic fatigue can also be causing depression and anxiety. So it's really important to understand that like, oh, okay, depression and anxiety causes chronic fatigue. Like it's like in the body, it's most of the time never like that. And it's really important to understand that like one thing that could be causing depression could be causing chronic fatigue, or chronic fatigue could just be caused by the depression. Most of the time, it's something deeper though. These are symptoms of an underlying issue that your body is warning you of. But anyways, I digress. Integrating mental health practices is really helpful in improving chronic fatigue. So, of course, doing things like therapy, journaling, and community support can be really helpful in improving your mental health. But more than that, improving the health of your body plays such an integral role in improving your mental health as well. Because again, depression and anxiety, most of the time, okay, again, when I'm talking about this, I am not ever going to be like, all the time it's like this, okay? People develop issues for a variety of reasons. Everyone is different. Everyone's life is so complex. So please remember that when I am talking. But anyways, most of the time, depression and anxiety are the result of an underlying issue in your body. A very common underlying issue that causes depression and anxiety is nervous system dysregulation, inflammation, hormonal dysregulation. Infection can even lead to an increase in depression and anxiety risk. So it's important to understand the different areas and how they can affect your mental health along with your chronic fatigue. But if you are noticing that you are struggling with your mental health, one thing that I highly recommend going into is, number 1, get your hormones checked. This can, like, whether it be your thyroid hormones, your sex hormones, even like iron levels, comprehensive iron panel. Those are good places to start. Number 2, I definitely recommend decreasing inflammation. So if you're eating anti-inflammatory foods, eating, mostly whole foods is like a really like basic way to say that, making sure that your blood sugar is, making sure that you regulate your blood sugar, making sure that you optimize your lifestyle. Manage your stress is also a really big thing when it comes to decreasing inflammation, along with understanding why the inflammation is occurring in the first place. Like, inflammation is the root of all disease, okay? But what is causing the inflammation, right? We need to take all the areas into account. So that's definitely really important to understand as well, which can be a lot easier when done through functional diagnostic testing. Getting your inflammatory markers tested can also be really helpful to see if or how much your markers are off as well. Anyways, the seventh scientific reason behind chronic fatigue is environmental toxins. So this review went a little bit into how the exposure to toxins and chemicals can drain your energy. I think it didn't quite go a lot into how significantly it can impact it, but it did show that it can have some impact. So my holistic take in this is, yes, first off, before I get into that, our bodies have an incredible ability to detox. Absolutely incredible. However, modern environments are overloaded with toxins from things that are in our water, things that are in our air, if you live in the city especially, mold in our homes, toxic chemicals. Don't hate me for this, but toxic chemicals that can be used in your personal care products, in your cleaning products, in your perfume, okay? These have a mild effect on the body by themselves. Likely wouldn't cause significant impact in your health. However, when these are all combined, this can cause toxic overload. Can, okay? I'm not saying everyone has toxic overload. I'm trying to be very careful in what I say here. Because I don't want people to be like, oh, she's like fear-mongering about all these toxins. I'm like, yeah, there are a lot of toxins in our environment, and I do think that we need to be mindful of reducing toxic load, because there's just too many toxins going on in our body. I have been focusing on reducing toxic load. Sorry, every single podcast, I always have something in my eye. I don't know what that's about. But anyways, I have been working for like a decade on reducing toxic load. And I mean, first thing before I get into it, it's definitely important to make sure that you don't just like stress about the toxins, okay? Because that literally does not help at all, okay? Please do not just like stress about the toxins, because that can cause negative impact on your health more than the toxins themselves. But it is really important to understand where toxins are coming from and what you can do to help reduce toxic load and optimize your drainage pathways, okay? So a few things that can be really helpful to reduce toxic load is to filter your water. You can purify your air with an air purifier. You can swap what would be more toxic cleaning products for more natural cleaning products, okay? I'm not saying chemicals versus no chemicals, because everything is a... oh my gosh, everything is a chemical. But anyway, it's as for like which one has been shown to be more toxic to and cause more negative, symptoms in your body than others. But anyways, you can swap, makeup products, personal care products, and those are definitely good places to start. I wouldn't get like too crazy in it yet. And then just focusing on eating high quality foods, buying organic when you can. If anything, following the Clean 15, Dirty Dozen can be helpful to help you in staying away from ones that have higher amount of pesticides and glyphosate, and then investing money, and then buying ones that have shown to be lower in pesticides to help save some money. So anyways, those are a few things that you can do. My holistic take to help reduce toxin exposure. And then the second part of this is optimizing drainage pathways. I'm not going to get into that today, but optimizing your drainage pathways is really helpful in ensuring that your body is actually consistently, effectively detoxifying toxins out of your body. So whether that be through sweating regularly, whether that be through eating detox enhancing foods, which pretty much just help promote liver health and drainage pathways, maybe even like dry brushing, which can help stimulate or which can help move lymph. And those can be a few practices that you can implement to help optimize drainage. Of course, like moving your body, getting some yoga in, getting in the sun can also be really helpful. So anyways, the eighth scientific reason behind chronic fatigue is dehydration. So the researchers mentioned that even mild dehydration can lead to tiredness, which is absolutely no surprise because your body's 70% water, right? Your cells need enough water to function, okay? H2O to function. So when you are even just mildly, this is making me so thirsty right now, even if you were just mildly dehydrated, it can decrease the function of your cells. It can decrease the production of ATP. So making sure that you get enough water and consuming hydrating whole foods can be really helpful in making sure that you're getting enough water to help promote energy production, okay? When it comes to fatigue, it really just comes down to the functioning of your cells and your mitochondria. It's absolutely incredible, like the impact that these things can have, like the impact that stress can have on it, the impact that inflammation can have on it, even just like not drinking enough water. So making sure that these areas are optimized is really important. The ninth, oh, I love getting into this. The ninth reason behind chronic fatigue is poor gut health. So in this review, they noticed that gut imbalances can affect nutrient absorption and therefore your energy levels, okay? So I do think that there's more than just gut imbalances when it comes to energy levels. Like they're talking about gut microbiome, gut buggy imbalances. I do think that things like intestinal permeability can be a factor as well because of its direct influence on nutrient absorption. Gut imbalances can affect nutrient absorption. If you have an imbalanced gut, it can increase inflammation. It's that increase in inflammation that can lead to intestinal permeability, and that intestinal permeability can further exacerbate a decrease in nutrient absorption. And when you're not getting enough nutrients absorbed into your body and you're having nutrient deficiencies, this can decrease energy levels. Additionally, there is a really interesting point that I want to kind of talk about with this as well. When you do have intestinal permeability, and I just laid out like the super simple layman term, like how it can develop. It's a little bit more complex than that. I just don't want this podcast to be too long. But anyways, when you have intestinal permeability, it pretty much means like, so let's say you like your gut lining. If you are watching me right now, I'm going to be looking at the video right now. If you are having a healthy gut, the gut linings are going to look like this. However, when you have inflammation in the gut, maybe if you are intolerant to gluten, which can affect the lining of the gut, what inflammation, poor diet, not enough fiber, slow motility, again, like gut microbiome imbalances, what it can do is it can break up the cells in the gut lining. So no longer does it have this tight joint, it starts to get loose like this, right? So before our lining was like this, and it doesn't mean that there's nothing that's able to get through, right? Only proper nutrient, like micronutrients and such can get through this. But when it's opened more, what happens is then pathogens can start getting let into your bloodstream, which obviously we don't want. So what can happen when pathogens get into the body alerts, oh, this is a foreign invader, we need to attack this, but your gut, okay, but if you have intestinal permeability for too long, and this can cause foreign invaders to be invading your body long term, which leads to an overactive immune system, especially in females. And this can actually influence the development of autoimmune disorders because your body can get confused, it's overactive, and therefore it can start attacking its own cells. Correct me if I'm wrong. From what I understand about gut health and the development of autoimmune, this is one path that autoimmune disorders can get developed, and how this can affect your energy as well, because when you are not absorbing nutrients properly and getting foreign invaders into your body too, your body is constantly in cell defense mode. And in cell defense mode, because increased inflammation is higher, because foreign invaders are in your body and your body's having to constantly eradicate it, which, by the way, your immune system is literally amazing. It's so cool how this works, but sometimes it can not work for you. But when this happens, because of cell defense mode, it decreases the production of energy. Pretty much, if you think of like your cell is like things are, I'm gonna try to say this as simple as I can. Like sodium and potassium are constantly going in and out of your cell, right? You're creating ATP, which is energy. The junctions, I guess you could say, are moving, they're loose, they're ready to go, they're feeling safe, whatever. When cell defense mode happens, pretty much what happens is your cell closes up because you have this like foreign invader in your body. It's like trying to attack it, right? And your cells are like, oh my gosh, wait, I don't want to, get infected. I don't want to die, right? So it closes up. And what does that do? It decreases production of your energy levels, okay? No, your energy levels decrease, but it's doing that because it's trying to save you from this foreign invader that keeps getting into your body because you have intestinal permeability. So that is, simple terms as I can put it, how gut imbalances, intestinal permeability, whatever, can lead to a decrease in energy levels. So if you have any questions about that, want some clarification, or if you're confused if that's even a thing, let me know. I would love to chat. Number five is not directly tied to your health or your body specifically, is what I mean, but it's a lack of purpose or fulfillment. So did I say number 5? I meant to say number 10. I don't know if I said number 5 or not, but anyways, the review mentioned that emotional exhaustion from lack of fulfillment can cause fatigue. Now, this is likely tied to nervous system dysregulation, most likely, based on what I know about how the nervous system can affect energy. But I'm not going to get into that whole lot because I have gone into a lot in this podcast and I want to not make this super long. So my holistic take on this is, if you are noticing that you are not living, if you're not following your passions, if you're not aligned with your values, then immediately engage in activities that align with your passions and your values. Do what you find fulfillment in, okay? Fulfillment and following your purpose is such a huge thing in regulating your nervous system. It's a really big thing that I support my clients in, because if you're constantly, it's called cognitive fatigue, where your actions don't align with what you want. And that's pretty much what we're talking about here. So make sure that your actions are aligning with what you want, and that will help reduce that cognitive dissonance in yourself, and it will help promote fulfillment and well-being, and therefore harmony in your body, which can help promote energy if your nervous system becomes regulated again. So that's as simple as I can put an explanation in my holistic take on that. But those are the 10 scientific reasons behind chronic fatigue. Thank you so much for joining me in today. And remember, understanding the reasons behind chronic fatigue is the first step to overcoming it. If any of these points resonated with you, I would highly recommend consider taking proactive steps to address them. And if you need personalized support, my holistic health coaching services are here to help you transform your health and reclaim your energy. If you need to heal your gut, if you need to optimize your hormones, if you need to optimize, drainage, detoxify your environment, if you need to manage your stress effectively, if you need to improve your diet, if you need to optimize your sleep, that is exactly what I do through my holistic health coaching. So I would absolutely love to chat and see what you specifically need to heal your body. And don't forget to subscribe to my podcast for more insights and tips on entering your healing and transformation era to overcome weight loss resistance, heal your gut, optimize your hormones, and chronic disease. Until next time, take care and stay healthy.